Well, I think we're ready. Hello, and welcome once again to a gathering of the spirits, of the songs and stories that have interwoven with my life down through the years, and to this time when it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, actually, right here it is. Don't know what it is where you are, but I am certainly glad that you have come by, and we're going to talk and sing for a little while, and going to begin with a little levity. Sometimes, I guess, a little joke might lighten things up. Well, this is Jesus' favorite joke. He loved this one. He'd say, "How many Samaritans does it take to change a light bulb?" And they'd say, "How many?" And Jesus would say, "Just one, if he's good." Maybe that's why Jesus didn't tell jokes. No one likes people just staring at you, going, "I don't get that. One if he's good. One if he's good. Oh, if he's a good Samaritan. Yes, now you get it. Don't laugh now. You had your chance." Of course, his disciples are off in a corner going, Hey, what's a light bulb?" You know that's why he called them disciples. Now you laugh. Yes. But do you suppose he ever did? Down through the years, I've asked audiences to think about it. Do you suppose Jesus ever told a joke? Because we don't know. The laugh track was left out of the New Testament. Could have been some good material, but we missed it. One of his friends thought it important enough on an occasion to record what we now know as the shortest verse of the Gospel. That would be what? That's right. Jesus wept. But no one ever recorded that Jesus laughed. And I'd like to know if he did. And I'd like to know what was so funny. Or even more. Your laugh, my laugh, is like a fingerprint. People know you're in the room when they hear that laugh. I have to wonder what his laugh sounded like. But we don't know. We do know that they did have jokes. It's not something we just came up with, Did have jokes. The reason we know they had jokes back in that day was they had Samaritans. That's right. If you're going to tell jokes, you have to have someone to tell your jokes about, and you tell your jokes about the other folks. Every place I've traveled over the years, every locale has somebody they pick on. It may be for what school you pull for, what state you're from. I used to live in Kentucky. Some years ago, we used to tell jokes about people from Ohio. I never understood why. You ever been to Ohio? Those people aren't that funny. Have you ever wondered or worried about people from West Virginia? I mean, if you're from West Virginia, who do you tell your jokes about? So did you hear? Maybe you weren't watching the news just this morning. The news from West Virginia, the state capitol. Yes, it was the Capitol building, burned to the ground today. Terrible, terrible. Actually, it just burned right down to the tires. Yes, yes. West Virginians, very funny people. Yes, they are. So it could have happened. A Samaritan joke. Because those were the other folks. Turns out that 2,000 years later, we still have the jokes. 2,000 years later, we still have Samaritans. Everyone I knew put the whole Gray family down. They were the poorest family in that little country town. Howard Gray had patches on hand-me-downs he'd wear. Kids would point and giggle at his tangled, dirty hair. Howard sat across from me in 7th grade at school. My mother taught me well. She taught the golden rule. So when the spitballs flew at him, I never would join in. I guess that was the reason Howard thought I was his friend. And after things had quieted down, I'd turn so I could see the grateful eyes of Howard Gray looking back at me. Howard Gray, Howard Gray, I guess they got their kicks treating you that way. Deep down I kind of liked you all, but I was too afraid to be a friend to you, Howard Gray. So one day after lunch, I went to wash up and I saw a bunch of guys had a Howard pin against the bathroom wall. They were making jokes about holes in Howard's shirt. Had his left arm twisted up behind him till it hurt. Now to this day I can't explain, and I won't try to guess how it was I wound up laughing harder than the rest. I laughed until I cried, but through my tears I still could see the tearful eyes of Howard Gray looking straight at me. Howard Gray, Howard Gray, I can't believe that I joined them all, treating you that way. I wanted to apologize, all, but I was too afraid of what they'd think about me, Howard Gray. So from that moment on, after I made fun of him, he never looked my way, he never smiled at me again. Not much longer after that, his family moved away. That's the last I ever saw or heard of Howard Gray. That was many years ago, still I haven't found why we'll kick a brother or a sister when they're down. You know this may sound crazy, but some nights when I dream, I see the eyes of Howard Gray looking back at me. Howard Gray, oh Howard Gray, never will forgive myself treating you that way. I hope that maybe somehow you might hear my song someday. Know that I am sorry, Howard Gray. We'll probably never meet again. All I can do is pray. May you and God forgive us. May you and God forgive us. Oh, may you and God forgive us. Howard Gray. Howard Gray, one fine tune written by a fine friend, Lee Domann, and I appreciate down through the years the witness of that song and of his story and his relationship to Howard Gray. I would say probably the stories that relate to me the most readily when I think of the stories, the gospel that I use as my kind of Lake Wobegon, my context for storytelling is the stories of the road, the conversations that might have happened as Jesus and his friends moved from place to place. Because the road is an ongoing conversation, and road trips are one of my favorite places to spend time in that kind of random mode. You're not where you've been and you're not where you're going. It's a time in between, the commute, the time unstructured, and so you wonder, perhaps I wonder what it might have been like as they went from town to town, the conversations on the way. So I'm imagining Jesus and his friends on the road. They're on, well, let's pick one, I-95. That's one we have here in Florida. We travel it a great deal, I-95. There are two kinds of people on I-95, just in case you don't know. People doing 95 and people who are. Oh, yes. Driving in this state is not for the timid. So, picture him on the road. They're headed north in a van. 12-passenger van, yes. For his disciples. Jesus is driving. He's the kind of, I picture it, a cruise control, just get settled in right there at the speed limit and making their way down the road. And the van is like it would be if a van full of people is traveling. There's not one conversation, there's several. There's chatter around front and the back, and people are talking and looking out the windows. When they get passed by a carload of Pharisees doing 95. And Jesus said, Did you see that? They said, see what? He said, those Pharisees that went past us. Did you see them? They said, yes, we saw them. What about them? Jesus said, well, they had a radar detector. One of his friends says, so? Radar detectors, they're legal, aren't they? Jesus said, well, yes, except in Virginia and Connecticut. But then he said, listen up. There's something I want to talk about, something I want to teach you. He said, there is a very important difference between looking good and being good. Pharisees, you got to love them. They know how to look good. Pharisees keep the letter of the law. But Jesus said, you can keep the letter of the law and still break the spirit of the law. He said, pay attention. There's folks out there that obey all the rules. And they're still just as mean as snakes. Radar detectors. Well, like I said, I spend a lot of time on the road. It gives you time to think about things. One of those things I think about is a radar detector. There's something you got to love about a piece of technology that you can purchase that warns you before you get caught doing something wrong. Is this a great country we live in or what? And something tells me that they're not going to stop here. Technology, they're always finding new ways to improve it or new ways to apply it. I predict that in the not too distant future, you'll be able to purchase a radar detector, not just for your car, but one that you can wear like a watch. Because, hey, speeding's not the only thing you get in trouble for. You get in any situation. And you're looking around wondering who's watching or the ethics that might be involved. You punch up your little radar detector. It has a little set of lights on it. If you get a flashing red light, don't think about it. You get a yellow light, that's for teenagers. Yes, that means just don't get caught. But a green light, free pass. Why not? No one's keeping score. Speaking of teenagers, I talk about this new technology coming down the road. They come up and say, hey, I want one now. Yes. They're always wondering who's watching. But even adults. Had one adult say, I could use one of those when I'm doing my taxes, Put it over there by the adding machine. Watch the lights. See who's watching. See, Jesus had a problem with his friends. He had a problem with his friends then and a problem with his friends now. Same problem. The problem that he was working on was the problem of hypocrisy. And here is the problem with hypocrisy. It is so obvious in other people. But we cannot see it in ourselves. Here's the way he said it to a man one day. He said, look, you want to help your friend? You see a friend and he appears to have a speck of sawdust in his eye. You want to help your friend perhaps by removing that speck of sawdust, Jesus said. Well, this is what he said. He said, I suggest you'll do a better job of removing a speck of sawdust from your friend's eye. If first you take the 2x4 out of your own eye. Now that was one of his better jokes. Did you get it? Did you get it? I'll go over it slowly. Let's say you're going to remove a nuclear weapon from your neighbor's eye. Jesus might say, I suggest you'll do a better job of removing a nuclear weapon from your neighbor's eye if first you will remove the over 12,000 nuclear weapons you have in your own eye. You see why no one was laughing. The difference between looking good and being good. Jesus said there's folks out there that obey all the rules, but they're still just as mean as snakes. A stranger stopped me and said, friend, do you know Jesus? I surprised him when I said, I'm sure I do. Then he handed me his Bible and he showed me where to look and what to say and how to pray to find the truth. When I tried to talk, he wouldn't listen. And when I wouldn't pray, he shook his head. So I gave him back his Bible and I just hugged him. I don't think he understood a word I said. I said, I think it must have been a different Jesus. The one I met when I was just a child. Thought I recognized the name, but the one I know could not have changed that much. Then I was getting dressed for church one Sunday morning. I heard a TV preacher use that name again. He's shouting, Jesus, 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 as he danced across the platform. Pretty ladies on the front row said amen. It was later on at my church that I remembered the devil tempted Jesus with a show. If he'd just say the word, the world would watch him. But when Jesus said the word was no. So I think it must have been a different Jesus. What I met when I was just a child. Thought I recognized the name, but the one I know could not have changed that much. Now some will use his name to sell their books, their records. Some will use his name to curse and swear. Bathroom Bible thumpers, we got these Jesus jingle bumpers. People stick his name most anywhere. We've got politicians that pray to get elected. People praise the Lord and carry guns. How come the ones who use his name so often fail to recognize him when he comes? Or they'll find he's always been the same old Jesus. He hasn't changed in spite of what you heard. He's still a friend to sinners anywhere. Never known a man who cared so much. And he cared so much. A different Jesus. That was one of my tunes. If you hear something on these Friday afternoons that we get together, here's something you'd like to hear again, I invite you over to the edkilbourne.com site there, to the video page, and you can go down the whole list of the 12 or 13 gatherings we have had since back in April. And you can go back and look over the material and listen to the songs and the stories. And also, with each story, I list the albums on which those songs were recorded by me and my friends. And so you can order the music there from the website. That would be a treat for you and for friends that you could share it with. So, there you go. Another visit, another day, a particularly trying week as these weeks have been, and I trust that as we have met in this gathering of spirits, that Spirit, the one that abides, the one that promises to abide forever in all of us, is there with you. And so for this afternoon and for today, simply the peace.